to the west of Wyerson Road, Ashbourne, Derbyshire. I just want to check in on the timetable this morning. Did you all receive a copy of version 3?
I decided to be there around. I've had a problem with my chambers emails, which I'm trying to know, so I haven't seen it.
Okay. Yep, does it look all right? Okay.
There's just one query really from the appellant's side, ma'am. I know that there's been an indication from Mr. Hunter that he will have some questions for Mr. Jackson.
Yep.
I'm just ever so slightly concerned about the planning evidence coming before the landscape and the ecology, and I don't think it'll change how much time we've got, but I think we may well just need to switch the order up potentially. Yeah, okay. if that's okay. That was the only comment I had.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Good, okay. Okay, so then the timetable today, we've got cross-examination of Mr. Lally for 2 hours, so about 9:30 to 11:30. Then we've got evidence in chief, Mr. Carr, which I think you indicated 40 minutes to an hour.
Yes.
So that should take us up to about 12:45, and then if we have about 45 minutes for lunch, 1:30 to 3:30 for cross-examination. Hopefully we can be finishing up at about 3:30, and that would be helpful to me just
Certainly.
in terms of travel. Okay, all right. Well, that's everything I had. Was there anything else anybody wanted to raise before we get started today?
No, thank you.
No, ma'am.
No? Okay, over to you then.
Thank you. It transpires I have to go to lots of different big folders, which makes this sort of physically a little bit challenging, but I'm going to do my best to get through it as smoothly as I can. Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Ms. Ogley.
You may just have to bear with me while I'm trying to find various documents. Can I just ask you, first of all, about the correction in evidence in chief yesterday? As I understood it, it's paragraph 1.8 of your main proof. Did I understand it correctly that what you were telling us is that you accepted the instruction to act and you accepted that without going to the site first?
That's correct. I looked online. It is on. Is it not working?
You do have to go. You have to go quite close.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Just in terms of the issues that you've raised in this case, in particular your first point, Mr. Lally, it's just not appropriate, is it, to be assessing a site and whether or not it complies with policy on landscape-related issues when you've not been to the site? Street View, Google Maps, there's no substitute for that, is it?
That's why I followed up with a site visit in person, but time didn't permit me to go to the site beforehand.
In your proof of evidence and rebuttal, can I find any reference to the heritage impact assessment that was prepared in support of the appeal scheme?
No.
You raised 2 points about that reference historic issues. Before I come to that, have you or anybody else on behalf of the local planning authority undertaken your own assessment about historic character or impacts?
No.
So you raised 2 points. You mentioned the historic environment in rebuttal, paragraph 2.7. You refer to the landscape character assessment. I just want to understand, what exactly in the landscape character assessment is it that you're relying on there?
in paragraph 2.7, I specifically reference the landscape character of Derbyshire report, which identifies that the site is located within the Needwood and South Derbyshire Claylands area, and identifies some specific guidance as to what that should imply for, or what that should inspire or influence for a design solution.
Yeah, I know that you go to the landscape character of Derbyshire report, but what I'm asking is, what exactly is it in that report that you're pointing to or relying on here?
What I specifically identify in that report, which is in my main proof, relates to some of the materials that are characteristic of the area. So in my main proof, paragraph 4.24, I quote the same document again, and I quote a passage from that report which establishes that within that character area specifically, it says, and I quote, "Almost without exception, traditional buildings are built of mellow red brick and Staffordshire blue clay tile roofs." That was my specific reference.
Okay, so it's just building materials.
It was identifying, yes, the traditional character and that in particular. I didn't cite, for instance, landscape-related matters.
Okay, so can we just go to the report, please? So it's CD 6.27, because I just want to clear a couple of things up, if I can.
Yes.
So I think the section that you're talking about is, there aren't page numbers exactly, I don't think, but you can follow it. It's part 1, dash 6.10 at the bottom.
I'm referring to 6.4 and 6.5. It's
Struggling to find that.
the section that I refer to is section 6 in part 1 of the landscape character descriptions, and it relates to Needwood and South Derbyshire Claylands character area.
I'm sorry, I'm going to need some time. It's a 265-page document, so I haven't got...
That's fine, Mr. Hunter. I will give the reference again if I can.
Sorry, 100.
So if you just look at the bottom of the page, that's the only way that you can really orientate with the page numbers outside of the PDF.
Thank you.
So there's a bit of... So can I just ask at the bottom of the page, Mr. Lally, which reference exactly is it that you're going to, please? There's a little... It's the best way to sort of... There's no page number, so you have to just follow the bit at the bottom. So it should say part 1 dash, and then there should be a number.
Part 1 dash, and then the section is part 1 dash 6.1 to 6.5, relating to the Needwood and South Derbyshire Claylands character area.
Okay, so that's settled plateau farmlands.
Yes, there's an inset plan that shows where that character area relates to, and it extends into the site because it covers both sides of the valley, and that's also shown on the digital mapping that the council provides online.
Okay.
You can see it in the part 1 6.1 provides the plan that covers the area in question.
Yeah, I mean the plans on the report itself, they're not particularly great to understand, are they?
Well, it does show that the site is located within that character area.
Well, I mean that's okay. We'll put that on one side for a second. Have you anywhere in your evidence, Mr. Lally, considered the landscape and visual impact assessment that was undertaken for the application?
I was aware of it. I considered it insofar as I looked at it as part of, in preparing my evidence, but I don't specifically seek to make any matters relating to landscape visual impact in my proof of evidence.
Well, I'll be making submissions on that because it's quite clear to me at least that that's exactly what you are doing, but we'll leave that aside. I just want to turn up the LVA, please. So I've got it in a slightly different place than others. I don't know if somebody might be able to find the CD reference. CD 130, please. 138. Thank you, Mrs. Carr. I'm not sure anything turns on this exactly, but I may as well just try and get some clarity on this point. You don't dispute anything in any of the assessments in the landscape and visual appraisal, do you, Mr. Lally?
No.
I'm grateful. So can I ask you to turn to page 12, please, paragraph 4.7.
I don't have that to hand. Is someone able to? Thank you.
CD 138.
Thank you. Yes.
Paragraph 4.7 and 4.6. It quite clearly sets out there, doesn't it, that actually the landscape to the south falls within the settled farmed lands landscape character area, not the settled plateau of farmlands. That's correct, isn't it? That's what it says, and you don't disagree with it?
That's certainly what it says here, but it's certainly what it says here, yes.
Yeah, and this is the danger, isn't it, of raising landscape issues without having regard to a landscape character and visual assessment, because you've just gone to the wrong section, Mr. Lally.
I stand by my the analysis that I've provided, that the site is located within that character area.
Okay. Can we then please go to the settled farmlands landscape character area, please, in the landscape character assessment, which is part 1-6.8 at the bottom, and it goes on for 5 pages.
Do you have that? Sorry, Sandra.
Apologies, what's the CD reference number of that one, sorry?
CD 138 is the same document.
What was the page number, sorry?
So if you go, it's at the bottom, so it's part 1-6.8.
That must be a different document. Not of the landscape visual impact assessment?
No.
No, sorry, apologies. I'm in the character assessment. I think you've got a hard copy, haven't you? I'm not in the LVA now. I'm back in the landscape character assessment.
Sorry, I'm going to have to reopen, so
Sure.
would you bear with me?
Of course.
Let me know what the document reference number is again?
627. Apologies, I misdirected you to 138.
No, I don't have a 6. Yeah.
I think you've got. Have you got the report on your desk? Oh, is it only the extract? Okay.
Only for the Needwood and South Derbyshire Claylands area.
Do we have another copy of our core documents that we could provide to Mr. Lally?
Yeah, with you now.
Okay, thank you. Just 2 quick points on this. I don't think there's anything massively between us, Mr. Lally, but if you go to part 1-6.10, you'll see the first paragraph on that page is still the predominant building material is a warm red brick with Staffordshire blue clay tiles.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But it then goes on to say, doesn't it, some local reddish sandstone is also used, and it says usually for more important buildings, and you got that?
Yes.
Yeah, and there are timber frame buildings. And then if we go down to the third paragraph, which starts most of the villages.
Yes.
Yeah, so we see there, don't we? It expressly tells us that we've got modern development, suburban development on the outskirts of Ashbourne and Clifton. It's actually directly referenced, isn't it, in this landscape character area?
Yes.
You don't mention that anywhere in your proof, do you?
I do not.
So there are just 2 points I wanted to go to on historic environment and character. If you just stay in that document for a moment, summary, second paragraph down, we see that a key feature of this landscape, and this is...
Page number are you on?
It's the same, exactly the same page number, 6.10.
Okay.
It's the brown box underneath the text we just looked at.
Yep.
So it's the second paragraph down. A key feature of this landscape is its settled character. I mean, that means that people live there, doesn't it? And that there are settlements and population in this area.
Yes.
Historic entry point. Your main proof, paragraph 4.13. Mr. Lally, do you know when the A52 was constructed?
I don't know the specific year, no.
Can we agree that when that main word went in, effectively, that fundamentally changed the entry to Ashbourne for good, before we get to anywhere near the development site, from a historic perspective?
Or my only reference to history was the historic Wyreston Road route, and Wyreston Road has certainly been there for hundreds of years.
Okay, well, let's put that aside. I'm not going to keep going over the same ground. In terms of landscape, you use the wording in your proof of evidence repeatedly that this site is a strategically important location. That's your wording, isn't it, Mr. Lally? It's not drawn from any designation or guidance or assessment that's been undertaken by the council or indeed any other independent body.
My reason for using that word was that I draw reference to the assessment contained in the Sheila report, which refers to it as being visually prominent. And I also make reference to the fact that it can be seen from along Wyreston Road. That's not my own assessment of the visual situation, but I reference again the Sheila and various other documents that make that point, and that it envelops the southern limits of the town with PD1 requiring us to give particular attention to development on the edge of settlements. And so wrapping all those things together, I'm taking the view that it has a strategic significance.
Okay. Can I have an answer to the question now, please, Mr. Lally? Can you remember what it is?
No. Can you run it by again?
Strategically important location, those are your words, aren't they? It's not drawn from any guidance or any designation or any landscape character assessment that's been undertaken. Or it's not in any policy either, is it?
The word strategic is certainly my word. What I sought to explain from my previous answer was that it was drawn from various other references in making that point about strategic.
Oh, I understand what you've done, Mr. Lally. You've taken lots of different pieces of information from lots of different places, and then you've decided in your judgment, which isn't informed by a landscape character assessment or a visual impact assessment, that this is a strategically important location? It's your assessment, it's nobody else's. It's your choice of word, it's nobody else's, is it?
I've taken it from two specific points.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lally, but it is important that I do get an answer to the question. If you want to qualify afterwards, that's fine, but I ask the question so that I get a yes or no answer. That's part of cross-examination. So it would be helpful for me if you could give me a yes or no first, and then move on if you feel you need to qualify.
But your question, if I might say, was saying that I drew from lots of different references, and so in answer, I just sought to clarify that I've cited two specific references, one being the local plan and one being the assessment contained in the Sheila.
Can we go to the landscape sensitivity study, please? Just give me 1 moment, because I'll have to swap folders for that. Oh no, actually, I think we are CD 626. You'll need your main proof. Yes, main proof. Paragraph 4.12.
Yes.
Have you got the CD?
Yes.
Can I ask you to go to page 6, please, of the sensitivity study?
Page 6, was that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Paragraph 1.2.1.
Sorry, I've got a different CD reference here. Can you run the CD reference by me again, please?
It should be CD 6.26, I believe. That's what I've got it as. Is anybody else? Yeah, everyone's nodding on this side of the table.
Got it.
Page 6, paragraph 1.2.1.
Yes.
Yeah, so quite a simple point. This sensitivity study is a strategic assessment, isn't it, Mr. Lally?
You're drawing attention to the word strategic?
And drawing attention to the fact that paragraph 1.2.1 tells us in terms it will comprise a strategic assessment.
That's correct, yes. Yeah.
A strategic assessment, Mr. Lally, is relatively high level. It has to be, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it also tells us in that paragraph that the aim of the study is to provide a robust landscape evidence base for the local plan. Do you agree with that?
I do.
You'll need to do two things now. You'll need to go to your paragraph at 4.11.
Yeah.
And you'll also need to go to page 30 of the sensitivity study.
Are they copies of proofs at the moment?
Yes.
Because what you do there, Mr. Lally, is you're quoting from two paragraphs. So paragraph 6.2.23 and 6.2.24. Now, no criticism, these things happen all the time with formatting, but they are two separate paragraphs, aren't they, addressing two separate points in two different areas of Ashbourne.
Yes.
And we know that our site, the appeal site, can't be the one that's referenced in paragraph 6.2.23 because it tells us that that area of Ashbourne is actually above development that is surrounding it, and that's definitely not our site, is it?
I would, Ma'am, ask that we go to map 2 in the appendix, which is, I think, the penultimate page of the document. And this shows the areas of sensitivity, identifies in the legend, in the key, where the areas of high sensitivity are, and identifies that that includes the site in question.
Mr. Lally, can I have an answer to my question, please?
So I don't believe that's the case. I think there's a clear correlation between the map identifying it as a high area of sensitivity and the text making that point, or making a similar point.
So it's a really very specific question. The first paragraph, 6.2.23, the south of the centre of Ashbourne, there is an undeveloped area of rising topography, wholly enclosed by development. However, due to its elevation above surrounding built development, this land has high visual prominence. The question is, that cannot be this site, can it? That's not what's being described in that paragraph, is it, Mr. Lally?
I'm not sure I can categorically say that whether that's the case or not.
Right, okay. So on the facts of this case, you can't say whether or not this site is surrounded by built development above that built development, and this site is not higher than built development, is it?
It's not higher, no.
Yeah, so it can't be this paragraph, can it?
I can't categorically say that because the plans are identifying it being high sensitivity. There's text relating to this area, and I think there's an attempt to describe that that's the case.
Yeah, but it's the second paragraph, isn't it? It's paragraph 24, which talks about the A52 acting as a strong limit to the development, and the land surrounding it rises steeply from the road, it says. It says it's open and it's visually prominent. So there's nothing between us on that, but I'm just trying to be very clear about this. Paragraph 6.2.23 has nothing to do with our site, does it?
I can't honestly say that. It's not referenced as to where the specific site is.
I see.
So I can't make that categorical.
Okay. Can you help me with this? The overall approach to the landscape sensitivity study is what this does is it sets out particularly important areas of landscape sensitivity. And in the case of Ashbourne, then what it does is just say, well, and anything that's not been designated specifically as low sensitivity, we're just going to lump it all together and put it as high sensitivity. That's how the assessment works, isn't it?
It's not for me to determine the methodology for the assessment. I can't comment on that.
Okay. Well, I'll ask Mr. Jackson, but it's not appropriate, is it, to be relying on documents that you don't understand?
All I've sought to do is identify a specific reference point that was used as part of the evidence base of the local plan, which identifies the site being deemed to be in an area of high sensitivity. I haven't drawn any judgment from that. I just simply reference that that's the case in this document.
So could I just ask if it's been said that what's been put about what the content of this report says, that everything that's not low is high automatically, does it say that anywhere, or is there any particular place I need to look
It does,
at?
and I'll take Mr. Jackson to it. I'll ask him to explain it.
If the witness, if the point has been put to the witness, it would be helpful if that is going to be maintained, if I could just have the reference.
Well, it's set out in this section about Ashbourne, so it's paragraphs 29, 30, and 31, but I think, and I don't mean to start getting a bit snippy, but I was told, Mr Hunter, by you yesterday that it wasn't your job to help me with re-examination. It appears that you're asking me to do the same.
Okay, it's just you put a point to the witness, and if it's in the text, I just wanted to know where it's said to be in the text. Thank you.
Where do you say, Mr Lally, that the appeal site can be seen from to the south, please?
Paragraph 4.12, I reference the statement contained in the landscape sensitivity, which says that the A52 to the southwest and the south of Ashbourne acts as a strong limit to development, and the land surrounding it rises steeply from the road and is open and is visually prominent. And I also reference the Sheila, which states that the site is visible from the new residential development to the north within Spittle Hill and from elevated land in the wider landscape to the southwest, such as the approach along Wyeston Road.
Okay, so you're just relying on the Sheila then, is that correct?
I am.
Yeah. Can I take you back then, please, to the landscape and visual appraisal? So I think we said it was CD 138.
Just check that last reference.
Yes, of
where
course.
you were reading from, Mr. Lally.
Oh, I see.
In terms of the paragraph number,
No, the core document.
the core document is CD 6.12, which is the Sheila, the strategic housing and land availability assessment.
And the paragraph or page.
Apologies, I don't.
It is the second page in the PDF.
First paragraph.
So there's no paragraph number here, but it's in relation to the site itself. If you've got where it references the site, and it says under the landscape comments.
Right. This is the site itself.
Yeah.
So page 2, top paragraph.
Yeah, it's in your rebuttal as well, isn't it, Mr Carr?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think it's set out in full in Mr Carr's rebuttal
Yeah, page.
from the Sheila.
The top paragraph of the second page relating to the site itself. The third line down.
Sorry, I think I've left the rebuttal upstairs. But that's okay, I've got the reference.
You happy for me to move on, ma'am?
sorry.
No, not at all. I'm just checking. I'm conscious I don't want to massively run over it.
I was
No, not
just
at all.
trying to clarify where
Of
Mr.
course.
Lally said it was visible from, and I
Yeah,
think
no.
he's saying Wyeston Road
Yeah.
from that reference.
So can we just go to the LVA again, please? So it's CD 1.3A, because I just want there to be no doubt about this. if we go to viewpoints 6, 7 and 8, I believe it is. Just turn them up. They're towards the back. Now, it is important just to keep in mind that this was based on the 102 scheme, not the 87. So some of the extents of the site shown in the visuals that will actually not be there because the development's been pulled back. But I don't think it really matters for our current purposes. In terms of viewpoint 7, that's a view from a private location, isn't it? It's an access road to the golf club.
Yes.
And again, viewpoint 8, that's a view from the golf course.
Yes, I don't believe there's a receptor that's identified for Wyeston Road, is there?
Because Wyeston Road's in the opposite direction. This is the bit across the valley, isn't it? That's why I'm going to it, because you make a point, Mr. Lally, about views across the valley.
From Wyeston Road.
I see. Just staying with these for a moment, what we can see, can't we, very clearly in viewpoint 6, is we can see the Red Road development, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And what we know, don't we, is that our scheme is actually going to provide substantial landscaping to that southern edge of the site, isn't it? And that will result in an overall improvement and a better integration of this edge with the countryside.
There certainly will be some landscape open space that will be maintained within the development. I don't believe that it does constitute an improvement. I don't believe it fulfills the criteria set out in the policies for good design.
One final question, as we went to the landscape sensitivity study, if that have indicated that this site was somehow strategically important in any way for the setting of Ashbourne, then what we could have expected to see is for that to be identified and for it to be designated as such, couldn't we, Mr. Lally? That's what the purpose of the evidence base is.
The document does its job in identifying high degrees of sensitivity. That's one point of reference for me using the phrase strategically important. The other one is, for instance, policy PD1, which requires the criteria requires the development on the edge of settlements enhances or restores the landscape character. So it specifically directs us to look at closely at development on the edge of settlements.
I'm not going to ask the question again. In terms of what's being done here, can we just take up Mr. Bassett's appendices, please?
What reference is that?
It's CD 7.6A. I've got a very big copy, which may be helpful. I don't know whether or not we can put it in a table centrally so that everyone can see it, maybe.
I'll find a place to put it, and if you're all set, it's the name's like that. We can put some chairs out here or a table would be even better. Put it on the table.
So if you've got your version on electronically, then if you go to Appendix 4, what we've got there is the scheme layout. Now it's, I think it's L rather than M. This is just one plan that hasn't quite been updated to remove the footpath that we have removed. But what it does is it overlays, I'm not sure, ma'am. Because it's not an updated plan, I'm not sure it will be. If we got a hard copy?
Yeah, just to clarify that, Ma'am. So this plan is in my appendices. It is an updated copy. It is the latest reference. It's the same as the site layout, but with the aerial on. So on your PDF counter, it's page 221 of 226.
Yeah. So what we can see here is that we've got the site and the proposed landscaping scheme for the site, and it's sort of dropped into the Google Map Earth view, isn't it, Mr. Lally?
Yes.
Yeah. And what we can see there is an incredibly substantial landscape buffer to the south of the site, can't we?
Yes, beyond the site limits, yeah.
No, as part of the scheme design, we can see that there is a substantial landscape buffer to the south, isn't there?
If you mean the strip here between the backs of the gardens and the woodland that lies beyond the site, then yes.
There will be planting as part of the landscape scheme, won't they, in that area?
Yes.
And that will constitute trees.
Trees in the far eastern side, we can't see many trees for the majority of the development in the middle. But yes, there will be some trees.
Have you had regard to the green infrastructure plan for the development, Mr. Lally?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson tells us that overall in this development what we're going to have is no less than 6,000 new trees planted. Do you agree? Disagree?
I have no reason to disagree.
Can we agree that in terms of design, one of the things that it is important to have regard to is whether or not substantial new green infrastructure is going to be provided by a scheme?
Yes.
Where do you take that into account in your assessment of the scheme's design, Mr. Lally? Where is it in your proof?
In my proof, I make some points in relation to the general layout, and I would say that that forms part of the overall layout being the relationship between open space, routes and buildings. So to that extent, I've taken it into account.
You don't acknowledge anywhere, do you, the amount of substantial green infrastructure that's going to be delivered by this site?
I don't make specific reference to that, no.
Whilst we're talking about it, can we have a look at the landscaping plan?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if somebody can find me the copy. I don't think I've got it in these CDs, Mark. Sorry. We've got a CD reference.
Yeah, CD 2.29, the general arrangement.
2.29.
And then there's a series of the insets that are blown up on a series of plans. So you start on CD 2.29.
Struggle to see it because it's not printed out at full scale, I'm afraid.
So this plan might be more helpful to Mr. Lally in talking about landscaping, I think.
By all means, I mean, I'm quite happy for someone to make a copy available. If it's CD 229, is that the right one?
That's fine, I'm happy with it, looking at it digitally.
Okay. So is there any change to my question looking at the plan?
No.
Sorry to interject, but there was a question, Mr. Lally, about the substantial planting, as I understood it, to the south from those views from Wyerston Road. Can you just remind me of your answer?
I think the question was specifically, if I'm not mistaken, substantial tree planting on the southern side, and the boundary pretty much hugs the edge of the woodland. So I was just drawing reference to the fact that I can see that there's proposed tree planting, particularly towards the eastern half of the layout. I'm less clear in being able to see substantial tree planting towards the eastern side, where it looks like it's predominantly open space between the backs of the gardens and the existing woodland.
Because I'm getting lost here as well, and want to make sure I understand the key and haven't gone completely off-piste. The dark green on the southern boundary is the new planting. I just want to check with myself so we can all understand the plan correctly. I'm saying on 229, Mr. Yeah. So I've got a hatched area with no colouring, which is retained. The woodland, I think you're referring to, the woodland southern boundary. So when we're talking about substantial tree planting, it's that. I mean, I don't.
In the corner to the south.
Pocket of green in the corner, and the pocket of green in the western end near Premier Avenue.
That's my understanding.
I just want to understand what.
So
Okay. So what we have, just to be absolutely clear and orientate everybody, is to the south of the site, we already have an established woodland, don't we?
Yes.
That's extensive.
Yes.
Yes. And then what we also have is we have shown on this landscape plan, the general arrangement, we have an additional area that's shown as woodland planting to the south near the access.
To the far southeast,
Yeah, and then we also have to the western edge, so sort of further towards Red Road development, we have another sort of indication of woodland edge planting there.
I think it's more adjacent to the Premier Avenue development rather than the Red Road, but yeah.
Yeah, fine. Well, I'm happy to take that, Mr. Lally. And we also know that we're providing another 6,000 trees on this site. So there will be substantial amounts of tree planting on the site as part of the landscape plan, won't there?
If that's what's stated, and I take it that is what's stated in terms of the number, then I don't contend otherwise. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm grateful because it just for clarification, it is slightly curious in the sense that we've got proposed plans that are detailed, ma'am, but we also have a condition requiring final details to be agreed. I'm just trying to put my hands on Mr. Jackson's proof, because that's the easiest place to see the 6,000 reference.
I think we can take it if you just give me the reference, I'll make a note. It's been useful to hear him today.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find you the reference, Ma'am. Yeah, paragraph 4.4, page 7, in excess of 6,000 new native woodland tree and hedgerow plants, reinforcing and complementing the existing surrounding trees and planting.
Okay, so that sounds as though the 6,000 comprises the trees and the hedgeland, if I understand that correctly, but...
Well, I mean, I'm sure Mr. Jackson can exactly confirm, but I think we can agree on any measure that's going to be a significant amount of new trees, isn't it, Mr. Lally?
I mean, within that 6,000, based on what I've just heard, I don't know how many trees, but I mean, yes, it's substantial, yes.
It's substantial.
Let's just go to the proof, just to satisfy myself.
Of course, ma'am. So it's CD 7.22, page 7. Yeah. What is it you're looking at? Where is that? What CD?
Yeah. So in excess of 6,000 new native woodland tree and hedgerow plants.
Yes, ma'am. And if it's hard to see on the hard copy that I've got, but the plan that we went to before, CD 229, gives you the breakdown. And I think actually it works out at about 3,500 if you just count up the trees and not the hedgerow. We're looking at, it's not enough.
And this plan, is that in the conditions? Detailed landscape plan, looks like it is, let me just check.
So,
I'll just look to Mr. Bassett for that, ma'am.
so if we,
Sorry, Mr. Hunter.
So, thank you. I just want to be clear that the number, so the 6,000 comes from totting up the numbers on 229.
Indeed.
Okay, we'll have a look at that. Thank you.
But you can see on there it's broken down into trees and hedgerow. We've got sort of in the order of 3,500 trees, new planted trees on the site.
I'll have a look at it. Thanks.
Mark, just to answer your question about the condition, the plan is in the conditions. It is an updated version to take out the footpath, but in all other respects it's the same, yeah.
So is it general arrangement P10?
P10, yes, for the conditions, yeah.
Right, okay.
You'll have that in the pack that I gave you yesterday.
We are straying into conditions, but I was wondering why we had the detailed landscaping condition when we have this sort of thing. But does it show the street trees?
I don't think this is the plan that shows the street trees. I think the plan that shows the street trees in their location is set out in Mr. Carr's rebuttal proof.
I think it does show trees, this plan.
It's just the very specific location. I think there's a better plan.
Okay.
Yeah, that main general arrangement has reference boxes to the subsequent more detailed plans that sit in the CDs below.
Yeah. So all together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I obviously, I don't want to do it too much, but we presume we're going to come back to it, but I'm just looking at that, and I just don't want it to come as a surprise. I can see 110 individual trees. There's thousands of hedgerow plants being put in. There's lots of woodland edge planting, but in terms of trees, and saying 6,000 trees, I'm not sure that's accurate.
It doesn't sound accurate.
I said it was 3,500 when you had them
I'm
all
not
up.
sure that's accurate either.
Well, I'm sure, what I'm not going to do in cross-examination is try and go through maths on a point on landscape, which apparently isn't in dispute.
Well, I mean, we can see what they are on that.
We can see what they are, and the inspector's got the plan, so I'm sure she's noted your concern.
Yeah, I just didn't, it keeps being repeated, so I didn't want to think it was...
Mr. Lally, in addition to green infrastructure and either preserving or enhancing that as part of development, it's also an element of good design, isn't it, to support and enhance biodiversity?
Yes.
And this scheme unequivocally does that, doesn't it? Because that's what Mr. Hoy tells us in his evidence.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Oddley. You have to forgive me. The problem is once my mind is stuck on a point, it's very hard to then follow what's coming after. I'm just looking at this plan because, it is quite a statement to say 6,000 trees and 3,000 trees. Just help me out. I'm looking at the plan. I can see 110 trees.
Can you give me the big version, Mr. Bassett? Sorry. I can't read this version. I was looking at it electronically last night, and I can't read it, I'm afraid.
So these are the numbers here. So I think what the inspector's referring to is the individual trees.
Yeah. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to go up to the top. If you've got a version that you can read, you'll see that in the planting schedule you've got woodland planting first. If you can see that, so you've got 825 trees there. You've then got woodland edge planting, including things like acres, which of course get pretty big.
I think we have the heights as well of them in the next column.
Oh yeah, we do. They're whips, as you would expect for new planting.
Yeah.
And then you've got individual trees as well, and there are 110 of those. So the numbers at the bottom for each section are provided, and as I say, I'm sure Mr. Jackson can talk us through it in more detail when he provides his evidence.
Just going to do a quick calculation.
Of course.
It looks about 3,000. 110 plus 2253 plus 3,188.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's in those two blocks we referred to and then throughout the site?
Yes, indeed, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you, sorry.
No, not at all. You also then have some hedgerow trees in the hedgerows, which are separate to that. But of course, they may well be, they may need to be maintained to not grow too high. Again, I'm sure Mr. Jackson can help us with the detail. Thank you, Mr. Bassett. This is it's the one time where the paper copy hasn't helped me in the moment. It's too small, and there aren't enough trees. No. Can I just go back to where I was before then, Mr. Lally? So I think we agreed that it's an element of good design to enhance biodiversity.
Yes.
And we can agree, can't we, that this scheme does that?
I'm not qualified to determine, to draw, to analyse the scheme's biodiversity, and that's not part of my proof of evidence.
Have you had regard to the evidence of Mr. Hoy?
I haven't familiarised myself with the details of the biodiversity proposals.
Okay. And as such, we can take it that your evidence on design has failed to take into account at least one element that constitutes good design.
You can take it that I I haven't looked at the biodiversity of the development in detail.
See. Okay, so I want to just think about the Wyreston Road approach now, please. These files do get heavy to look around. My shoulders are taking the strain. Thankfully, I need to ask you to take up a smaller document because it's one of the easiest ways to go to find it. If someone perhaps on the council side could find you the Amy Road Safety Order, in case we hadn't heard enough about it yesterday.
Which CD reference is that?
I have to be honest, I'm not entirely certain. Have we got a CD
It's
reference?
just at the back of Mr Carey's
Evidence, yeah.
Appendix B, I think.
I think they do all have core documents as well, but
Could you help me with the CD?
It's core document 7.7 if I remember. Try 7.7.
713.
Oh, 713, there you go, sorry. That might be Mr Price's, I've muddled it up with.
the reason for going to this is the photo on page 9, Mr Lally. So if I can just ask you to turn that up, please. Photo 2.3-2.
Yeah.
We can see there, that's the current face of the Red Road development, isn't it, to Wyreston Road to the south?
No, I think that's, yes, certainly from the approach immediately close to the site, if that's where I understand it to be from, yes, but this is about the approach as seen from Wyreston Road on the southern side of the valley, as you're looking across the valley and see the development on the valley side. So this isn't what I was referring to, and it's not what I understand the reference to be referring to when it talks about the land rising steeply and providing visual prominence as seen from the southwest, such as the approach along Wyreston Road.
In terms of how the edge of Ashbourne currently presents on entry into the village, Mr Lally, this is the current face, isn't it?
Into the town of Ashbourne, do you mean?
Indeed, the settlement.
This is the immediate view just before you arrive at the junction, is what I understand. This to be seen, yeah. So it's...
Before you arrive at which junction, Mr Lally?
The proposed junction on the eastern side of the development. This is the proposed view, is it not? This is the view.
I just was confused because you get to our junction, our access road for this appeal site is before you get to this development, isn't it? You can see that. Are you on the right page? Page 9, photo 2.3-2.
Page 29 in the PDF.
Ah. And the figure number is?
2.3-2.
Gotcha. Yes, so that's what I thought you were referring to. The Wyreston Road as it is immediately approaching the proposed entry to the east of the development.
This is the current edge of the settlement, isn't it, Mr Lally?
It is yes.
Just again, I don't want to be unfair, but I do want to understand, are you inviting the inspector to conclude that the current edge of the settlement, as we look at it on photo 2.3-2, is preferable to that which will be in place if the appeal proposal goes ahead?
I'm not drawing any reference to the edge of the settlement. No.
So can we agree between us, having considered the landscape planting and the existing woodland, that with our development in place, what we actually will have is a better, much improved, significantly improved, fair face to the edge of the settlement of Ashbourne?
We're talking about two different locations. So my understanding of the reference contained in the Sheila document, when it talks about the visible new residential development on the elevated land in the wider landscape to the southwest, so we're talking about the wider landscape, we're talking about the panoramic view, such as the approach along Wyeston Road, they're actually talking about much more south than this, and the development as seen across the valley in that wider view as you approach the town.
Well, Mr. Lally, the view across the valley, that's exactly why I took you to the visuals in the landscape and visual assessment, because that is the view across the valley, isn't it? Those are the only viewpoints to this site from that direction. That's correct, isn't it?
No, I haven't made a visual impact assessment, but what I can say is that is an incorrect statement, because the receptors that you've identified are taken from the private golf club and not from Wyeston Road. And this is specifically relating to the approach and
Mr. Lally, so that I can understand, sorry ma'am, I'm not trying to cut off, I'm just trying to clarify. Where can I, or the inspector for that matter, from your evidence before the inquiry, understand exactly where it is on a plan that you say a view of this site can be appreciated from Wyeston Road?
I'm simply referencing the Sheila document.
Sorry, Mr. Lally, that's not the question.
You would have to look at the Sheila document CD 6.18.
Can you pinpoint it on a map, Mr. Lally? Where your concern lies?
So, Wyeston Road continues to the south here, rises up the valley side.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't think it's.
It's not shown on the plan, it's further, I think it doesn't go far enough.
The approach,
Yeah.
the approach is along Wyeston Road here, and really, as the turn of phrase, in the wider landscape to the southwest. So we're talking about the wider landscape, that panoramic view as you come up Wyeston Road and you get those views. At the moment you can see the Red Road development along the crest of the valley.
Ms. Oakley, I sympathise that there's not a map, but equally I do see Mr. Lally's point, so it's something I'm interested in.
I can understand that, ma'am, but in order for me to be able to effectively cross-examine, I need to understand what the case is, because I can't at the moment, I'm afraid.
Well, I can help with that if you want to know the council's case.
Well, no, sorry, I mean, just to be very specific, I need to know what the view is that's being claimed.
But I mean, it's a matter that there is a physical road, Wyeston Road, that goes further south than that. The golf club is off that road, and you have photographs from the golf club. I don't know, it's not me to give evidence how similar it would be from Wyeston Road, but it can be taken as public record and objectively verifiable fact and indisputable that the golf club is next to Wyeston Road. So there will be a view somewhere near where we have some viewpoints.
I'm sorry, ma'am, that just can't be. That's complete supposition without an actual viewpoint.
I think what we should do is we should get a view, get a picture of this view that you're concerned about, Mr. Lally. And then we have it when we talk to Mr. Jackson, and what's occurring to me is I might have to question him a little bit myself with a roundtable if that's acceptable, just following up Mr. Lally's evidence.
Ma'am, I might just need an adjournment to take instructions and perhaps speak to Mr. Jackson, because, as I said, it's pretty much impossible for me to cross-examine on the basis of a claimed viewpoint when I don't know where that is. Of course, I understand entirely that the suggestion is, well, it's somewhere from Wyerston Road. But quite frankly, that's just not good enough. And I need to understand the point. So at the moment, my mind is moving in the direction that I can't actually effectively cross-examine Mr. Lally today, I'm afraid.
Well, Ma'am, I can't say I'm a bit surprised by that. Mr. Lally's proof has been had for as long as anybody else has had a proof. Mr. Lally's evidence on this is in his proof. He refers to the landscape sensitive study and the SHELAR, which is where he says he gets the reference for visibility in particular from. So this is a point which has been known to the appellant all along.
All right, if I may have a view. My view as the independent person reading both sides is, with respect to Mr. Lally, I didn't pick up on that specific view, but it is coming through in your evidence. So it's helpful to me in that regard, and obviously I understand procedural fairness, but also my position is slightly different, that if something comes up and it's important, it's my duty to be inquisitorial about it. So shall we take a short adjournment just while you consider, because I think at the very least we all deserve to know where this view is, to have a visual and a map perhaps, and then we can deal with it openly and, for the purposes of the inquiry. So let's just take a short adjournment until, is 10:02 sufficient, or do you need a little bit longer, 5:02?
What I don't know is Mr. Jackson's availability, ma'am, because obviously he was stood down for today. Perhaps if we can just have until 11, and then let you know where I'm up to.
Well, can I just ask something? Given that there might be a discussion about where we can get a picture of it, a photograph of this, for that purpose, I may need to speak to Mr. Lally just to see if he can do that on that specific part. I'm not asking.
I mean, if you get, well, yes, he is in cross-examination.
He is in cross-examination.
But if you want us to help progress the matter, we'll look at the photographs.
Look, I will take Mr. Hunter at his word if he promises to the inquiry that that's the only thing that's going to be discussed.
Photograph of use that we can produce to the inquiry.
Yeah, that's.
I'll ask it here. And then
Yeah.
Mr. Lally
I mean, I took a photograph when I was on site the day before yesterday. I can't say that it's verifiable, but I can share with you a view that I took from that location. In fact, I'd rather not, because I can't say with confidence exactly where it is. I don't think it'd be appropriate to do that.
But of course, I mean, of course, I understand, and if Mr. Hunter,
If Mr. Lally thinks there's something that I need to...
of course, just if there's already a photo, I understand.
wonder if we should shelve it and Mr. Lally come back when Mr. Jackson's around.
I think
we
that-
deal with that specific point then.
I think we're going to have to.
Okay. All right. Can you make yourself available for when Mr. Jackson's in?
Week after next.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
I think it'll be Wednesday the 22nd. Although in some ways I'm wondering if we should just do it on the Tuesday to get it out of the way, because they do go together. But watch this space. It'll be sometime 2 weeks' time. Sure.
Yeah, but what we'll do is we'll just get Mr. Jackson's full availability as well, ma'am.
Okay. Are you happy to shelve that point and move on with the rest of your cross-examination?
I think if it's okay, I think I'd still like a short adjournment just so that we can try and get our ducks in a row, and then I can try and move on to design issues that are non-landscape related, if you like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. We'll adjourn till 11 then.
Thank you, ma'am. able to understand and deal with it, that he needs effectively a plan, X marks the spot, as it were. We need that today, because we only have obviously another week in between, and then Mr. Jackson will need until next Thursday in order to respond with further evidence after assessment work, once he understands where the point is. That's where I'm at with it. In terms of availability for the second week, Mr. Jackson can make himself available any day. He will move whatever he has to around to make sure that he is here, he has told us. So that's one point that we can sort of box off. The only other issue now, from my perspective, is having reconsidered Mr. Lally's evidence. It's hard to see how I can make any real progress apart from two or three limited points that don't overlap with landscape. From that perspective, I'm not sure that I can continue with cross-examination of Mr. Lally today. One option potentially is that because Mr. Carr gives design evidence without reference to landscape, we could have evidence in chief from Mr. Carr, although I appreciate that reverses the usual order, because then the appellant would be going first and the authority would respond, but that's sort of the best effort I think that I can come up with, really. Because even when we get onto architectural character, if you read Mr. Lally's proof, just to give you an example of why I'm saying what I'm saying, Ma'am, if we go to paragraph 4.22, we see that there's policy and a reference to standardised building types and house types. But then at paragraph 4.24, we're straight back into landscape character, so that the points are completely intertwined and linked.
If I can say, Ma'am, certainly the reference is to the landscape character report, but within that report, I'm not actually drawing reference to any landscape matter. I'm solely focusing on the references there to the traditional building materials that are found within the area.
That well may be so, but again, if we just go on to a poor quality design and neighbourhood design policies, 4.28, lack of integration of individual dwellings, we're straight back into landscape, close bordered fencing, boundary treatments, and visual impacts.
Are you saying this all links to this view?
Well, I think a lot of it does link into this view, Ma'am, yes. I think the only things that I can identify that are not affected by it at all are, there's a point about quad blocks and affordable housing, and there's a point about non-bespoke house types. But I think, that would take us about probably 15 to 20 minutes. And I just, everything else, again, I've had 15 minutes to consider it. I think most of the other points do, I'm afraid, link back to this issue. I don't know whether or not a further adjournment would be of any use, certainly for us to just, take a closer look at that. That's my current view. And or perhaps for the authority to consider its position as well.
Before I come to you, Mr. Hunter, yes, I do see your point, because I think a lot of these things about boundary treatments and that edge you were talking about in evidence in chief seem to link back to this view, because this is where we're going to see it from. And then we were straying into landscaping, and would that mitigate it, and so on and so on. But yeah, we might be able to deal with the quad blocks so we could do that. So that's me just working out where we are. So Mr. Hunter, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I don't myself, I think I'll need to take instructions is one thing. But my position, I think, on this particular point is, as it was before, it was in the proof. But I understand so I don't really go over. I've said my position on that. It was in the proof. He's made that point. I don't think all the landscape points depend on this view as well. But I appreciate my learned friend may take a different view, and she has to decide how she wishes to cross-examine and which matters will be seen as the most important in that. I can say this, though. If there is to be an adjournment of the cross-examination of Mr. Lally for this reason, it wouldn't be possible to go ahead with Mr. Carr's evidence, because I was going to put landscape points. I can't ask my questions, but I understand Mr. Carr's going to say that's something I can't comment on until Mr. Jackson's come back on this. So if anything, landscape is off the table for the time being, then I don't think I can sensibly do cross-examination either, because I would just be doing bits and bobs of it and then having to come back and then finding perhaps that it's an artificial way of looking at it.
Understood. I tell you what, take another short adjournment just to see if you can, just so that it's dealt with, if there is anything on those points about quad blocks and so on. But then it sounds like we may have to draw a line under it in light of this point. But just in terms of an extensive response from Mr. What's his name?
Jackson.
I mean, hopefully, there is a lot of evidence before us about landscaping, which we were dipping into, and he will know his evidence. It's one view. So hopefully that will narrow down what he has to say in response, hopefully. But obviously he has to have the opportunity to consider that.
He does, ma'am, yeah.
Yep.
Well, can I just say on that? I think the problem then will be that that'll be new evidence that the council hasn't seen and might want to come back. So I wonder if the most sensible way forward. I mean, isn't the key to this then for Mr. Lally and Mr. Jackson to identify any relevant viewpoints and agree an additional viewpoint or two that it might be, if they can, and then to take it from there. If there can be an agreed statement,
it's a viewpoint, really, isn't it, Mr. Lally? I think we need to know what that is to understand your evidence. If you can pinpoint
happy to
that,
convey it now. Yeah.
Well, I think we need it on a map, and we need a picture of it.
Sure.
And then that needs to go past both sides, and then they can comment accordingly on how it affects their cases. So,
again, Mum, can I just say on that, given that's going to happen, I think I'm going to renew my request, which was, I understood, agreed on the, so that I will need to liaise with Mr. Lally over this particular point. I won't speak to him about anything else in the case, but just the identification of a view to take this matter forward.
Well, I mean, again, where I'm at, ma'am, is that all of my cross-examination really has been prepared around the landscape issue, because I know that the council's position is that they don't make a landscape case, and I think this really highlights that just can't be right, but that's a matter for submission in any event. But nevertheless, my inclination, I have to say, I need to consider this a little more carefully and take instructions properly, because most of our 15 minutes was taken up getting hold of Mr. Jackson and checking what he considered he might need to respond and by when. But I almost think we have to just draw stumps and start again. I mean, that's where my mind goes on it, because all of the questions and all of the reasons why I've already done what I've done is because there's a claim that this is somehow sensitive from a landscape perspective because of a view. And so it transpires now that I didn't even have the information that I needed to properly understand the point that was being put, which is why I went to the landscape and visual assessment first with Mr. Lally. So I have to say my current position is I think I need to advise the appellants that this needs to effectively stop and we need to start again. So Mr. Lally won't be in Purda effectively, but I need to take instructions, ma'am. And of course, in terms of Mr. Lally's evidence, if he does start expanding beyond this, then that's going to cause additional procedural issues. And obviously, the appellant's already indicated a cost claim, and that will be expanded to reflect this situation.
Well, I've deliberately not raised costs, but I'm reserving, as it has been raised, I'm reserving the planning authority's position as well. Thank you.
I think the problem we have here is character and appearance. Character and appearance is broad. It can creep into, design in terms of materials, and it can creep into views. It's broad, character and appearance. And I did set out our main issues, the effect of the development on character and appearance of the surrounding area, which I think encompasses where we're treading. So we've definitely had a hint of it, as you say, but it's becoming more and more key, I think, as we go through the evidence. Okay, do you want another adjournment just to take a breather and...
Yeah, Ma'am, that would be helpful. I mean, in terms of taking instructions, I would suggest that we just maybe give until past, so that I can just reflect. And obviously, if there is anything more material that I think I can proceed with, then that's what I would do. But I don't, I'm just going to get overly procedural here, but of course, landscape and views was a matter agreed in the statement of common ground between the parties, Ma'am. So
we'll have a look at that in the break.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
Right,
grateful.
let's adjourn till past, and there'll be timetable implications. So if we do have to stop and basically restart, we're going to have to look at the timetable before we go away today. All right, okay, let's adjourn till Who wants to go first then? Where are we at?
Well, can I
Just review what this is all about. It's Mr. Lally's proof at 4.11 through to 4.14 on pages 7 and 8. And you'll see on there, he says, as identified by the landscape officer in the Sheelar, the site is, quote, visible from new residential development to the north within Spittal Hall, so within Ashbourne itself, and from elevated land in the wider landscape to the southwest, such as the approach along Wyeston Road. And he then goes on to say, as these references convey, there's reference to the landscape sensitivity study, says the land has high visual prominence. The southernmost face of the town to the countryside beyond defines the first point of view as one approach along Wyeston Road from the south, a historic entry point. So what Mr. Lally was saying in his proof, this is identified in the site is specific, the area is identified within the landscape sensitivity study as being having high visual prominence, and specifically within the Sheelar as being visible from elevated land to the southwest, such as the approach along Wyeston Road, and that was the basis of what he said. So I think that reference to elevated land in the wider landscape is, in my submission, clearly referring not to the Wyeston Road in the immediate vicinity of the proposed site access, but the elevated land on the other side of the valley near the golf club. What it means to other land in the southwest, we don't know. But he was relying on that reference when he gave his evidence, and the appellant has known that for 3 weeks. So it also seems what the appellant's saying is the Sheelar is wrong when it says it's visible, that the site is visible from that location. But this isn't a new point, is all I'm saying. This isn't something, respectfully, I would say, that ought to have come up when it has and caused such controversy. If the appellant disagrees, they could have responded to that earlier. So, as I understand it as well, having spoken to Mr. Lally, sorry, I should say this, as I said before, I don't think it is all the case. In fact, the primary case isn't about the view. We're saying this is a edge of settlement site. It's not well designed, regardless of views. But there is a view according to the Sheelar, and and I'm not in a position to say that we could agree that there isn't one. And so I can't say anything other than that, I think, Ma'am, at the moment, that we're not in a position to say, I think what he says in the proof is entirely right. And I don't think I can take it any further. If we want to identify the relevant views, I think my position again is as before, that would be something that should be done between Mr. Lally and Mr. Jackson, so that, again, it should be that viewpoints for this sort of thing, when they're irrelevant, are usually agreed, if they can be.
Ms. Audley?
Ma'am, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at the Statement of Common Ground, but I just invite you to have a look at Landscape and Visual, page 21, and what's set out there. Paragraph 5.23, paragraph 5.24. I'm not going to go through that in detail. I'm sure that it's quite clear, but we'll see that it's obvious that it's agreed that there would be no harmful impact in landscape and visual terms. I now have a claim made against me. The Sheelar doesn't put a cross on a map, ma'am. There's no indication in that document as to where it says, apart from a general reference. So I can't understand it from that document. It's quite clear that Mr. Lally is apparently making a very specific reference to a very specific place. We want to know what that is. I think it's fair and right that we should know that. I understand about agreeing viewpoints, but in the context of what's happening today, I would like to ask through you to make it very clear that we need an X marks the spot today on a plan. If a photo follows on, that's fine. But Mr. Lally should put his position clearly now on a plan so that we can understand what it is that's being said. And in terms of how this affects Mr. Lally's evidence, as I said before, and I've reconsidered the point with a bit more time to do so, but there is, my position remains that there is hardly any aspect of Mr. Lally's case that isn't relevant to the supposition that this site is strategically important in landscape terms, and it seems that position is entirely predicated on what is said to be this view, which I still don't know exactly where it is. Now, we've been to the landscape and visual assessment, which wasn't challenged by Mr. Lally. It's not suggested, well, actually, there's a view there that is representative. We are being completely caught off the ground, really, on this. It's complete Shanghai, and we need an opportunity to respond. I don't think I can take this any further today. Mr. Hunter has already said that if I can't cross-examine Mr. Lally on matters of landscape, then he can't cross-examine Mr. Carr on matters of landscape. And again, that just really emphasises the point that there is a landscape case being made here. And just to complete the picture on this, ma'am, and I think case officer was copied into this, so you should have access to the correspondence should you need it. But having received Mr. Lally's evidence, the appellant immediately spotted this and went back and said, hang on a minute, you are resiling from the statement of common ground. You are not a landscape witness. You are making a landscape case. Please withdraw your case on this point, otherwise we will have to rebut it with landscape evidence, and that's where it led to Mr. Jackson providing a rebuttal. This is clearly a landscape case, a landscape point that's being made by Mr. Lally. I will have to restart effectively all of the cross-examination that I've already gone through on landscape matters once I know where this alleged view is. I'm not sure I can help any more on that. I really do want to. The appellant wants this to progress as fast as it can, but ultimately it's not fair for our case to be prejudiced.
Ma'am, am I...
Probably easier if I put where I think it is, unless it's absolutely pressing, Mr. Lally. I think, as in all these cases, the truth is somewhere in the middle. It seems to me it's not pure landscape. What it is it's design points that can be observed from this point on Wyreston Road, which is, so it's somewhere in the middle. So I don't think it's as clear as the council's got a landscape case. It's more they've got a design case, but it invariably overlaps into a view that certainly some of us were not aware of for whatever reason, and that's just facts. Some of us were not entirely aware where this viewpoint was, and I think it's important to know where that viewpoint is in order to tackle the points of, and I go back to your evidence in chief and the notes I've made that related to the southern side being entirely characterised by fencing. That's something we're going to see from Wyreston Road. Houses nestled into the landscape, well, you're only going to see that at distance. How are the walls and hedges handled, seen across the valley. And we do have this socially integrated places, which is separate, street trees separate as well. So it seems to me there are parts of your case that we can deal with. This, which is this block of so on, and the street trees, but we are in this problem that we've begun cross-examination and we can't finish it because I think the appellant reasonably and me reasonably need to know more detail about this view so that we can then, or so that I can then judge and you can answer the case put to you that from this view along Wyreston Road, we see these design elements that you have concerns with. I think that's where we are. So I think with that in mind, it wouldn't be fair to push on, because I do think it has disrupted Ms. Ogley's line of cross-examination. I think, you know, you need to know exactly how you're tackling this. So I think we've really got no choice but to stop today and restart once we, you know, all have this point on a map. So Mr. Lally, is there something you could provide today? A point on a map and a view of it, if that comes later?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I would like the opportunity to make a point, ma'am, if I may, because at no point have I sought to contradict the statement of common ground, which states that there's a harmful impact. I haven't mentioned impact at all, and I must say, in the evidence provided in urban design and landscape by the appellant, they allege that I stated that there's harmful impact, and I've made no such allegation at all. All I seek to do here is reference what I see in the Sheila. I think it's pretty self-evident as to, in broad terms, the strategic wider landscape that's being referred to. But just to sort of make the point that this is an edge of town settlement that wraps around the southern limits of the town, and therefore has a certain significance, especially in the context.
Giving evidence, because that's not what we're
It's
doing
really
at the
just
minute.
about the status of the site, I
I
suppose.
hear what you're saying, and I think if you heard what I said, I wasn't putting that accusation towards you. I think it's an honest mistake, if I'm being frank about it, that has just become crystallised through evidence, and it happens sometimes. So you say we can get this point today on the map, okay. Mr. Hunter, did you have anything to add?
There are probably things I could say, but I won't, because I don't think it'll take it forward. It's only that I don't know whether I think it will be possible to do that when Mr. Lally says. It might be that it'll come later in the day, because it might be that we want to go out on site and have a look at it again ourselves.
Happy with that course of action?
As long as we agree a time and that it definitely is provided to the appellants today, then yes, I am happy with that course of
I
action.
think close of play today, is that
Absolutely,
acceptable? Yeah, okay. Okay, let's look, well, first of all, the rest of today then. So we're likely to adjourn around about midday, and that'll be it for this week. So apologies to our witnesses that are having to stand down today. I think I'm going to go to site. We'll probably all meet on site because it's on my way home. So I'm going to make use of the afternoon by going in and doing my site visit. Because I'm doing it early, I don't think it needs to be accompanied today. I would like the opportunity to go out and have a look unaccompanied. Can I get access to the site?
I'll just ask, yes.
Just let myself. We might have to run over again.
Okay.
We can get you a code for the panel.
That would be useful, yeah.
How long would it take to get that information, Mr. Dwan? 10 minutes?
Oh, that's fine, as long as we have it before I go.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, so I'll do the site visit this afternoon, and you can all go and drive up and down Western Road as well, and prepare that point on a map. So that's all of your homeworks for today and mine. Let's look at the timetable for when we resume, because first business will, I think, should be coming back to this.
Yes, ma'am.
On Tuesday the 21st. So I think that needs to be design part 2, well, not part 2, version 2. So we begin again, followed by Mr. Jackson, I think. Obviously, once we've heard from both sides. Then we need to obviously get onto drainage planning.
And ma'am, should we, in terms of Mr. Carr as well, I just wonder, do you want to hear from Mr. Lally, then Mr. Carr, then Mr Jackson, it might actually work in this case to reverse Mr Jackson and Mr Carr.
Yeah, I think it might actually.
Yeah.
So we do Mr Lally, followed by Mr Jackson, and then the council can deal with both as we go along.
that's fine.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, does that make sense? So it's Mr Lally first for the council, then it's going to be Mr Jackson followed by Mr Carr for the appellant.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Let me just have a look at the timetable, because I think this is going to cause some problems.
I think it pushes everything back a day.
Yeah. So we've got, so we've had your examination chief, so basically we need to restart Friday. It does push it back by a day, which means that's going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, we've got a bit of a problem then. We can certainly do costs in writing, which I think you suggested early on. Conditions.
I wonder if we could do conditions or even roundtable virtually.
I was going to put those all on the virtual day, so I've put them in the wrong order actually, but yeah, conditions, obligation, closings virtually on the 29th. Cost in writing after. Site visit can hopefully be dealt with today, unless I need to go back, which I might do, but I might be able to do that unaccompanied, which would save inquiry time.
Indeed, ma'am.
But I think we possibly need another day, because we've lost a day. But does anybody have any availability?
This would,
I mean, the only other option is we use Wednesday the 29th to finish evidence, and then we find another day to just virtually do closings.
I think that would probably be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
I've just managed to lose my work diary. There we are. So it's the 29th is the final day at the moment because of the bank holiday. So I think we'd be looking into the 30th.
Is anyone free on the? Yeah, no, ignore me. May is always odd, isn't it, with its bank holiday?
It is, yeah, it throws everything off. But I mean, I'm certainly able to do, I could do closings on the 30th. So I could switch the virtual session to the 30th. I can make that happen.
I can't do that.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
I'm then in another inquiry for the 2 weeks thereafter, ma'am. And after that, I'm due to be out of the country. I'm afraid I need a holiday after 3 on the bounce.
What about the 28th? Does anybody have availability on the 28th?
I can do the 28th. We'd have to travel on the bank holiday.
Yeah, well, we could do a 2 o'clock start.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
This is to mop up any evidence, and then.
Yeah, then later, we hope, insofar as it would be those last bits.
Yeah, that's. I have got an appointment, but I can change that. So that's.
I only have it set aside to travel and deal with this case, so I can do that.
I've got a travel day, luckily, even though I wasn't remote to travel, but I kept it in.
So the 28th. 2 p.m.
Something like 2 p.m.
Yep.
So that we've got time to get up here, and hopefully it's more sort of that evidence in chief style where we're presented with evidence. And there may be a few questions, but it's not as heavy as the
yes,
day.
No, that's so that would be day. What's currently day 6.
Yeah.
The only thing I haven't been able to do is double check the wider availability in the team.
Yeah. If we need it, if we haven't, because it may be.
It might be housing land supply. That's the only thing which is a bit heavy.
In land supply.
Yes, Mr.
Well, I can. Either way, we've got the afternoon to do it.
Yeah.
We'll double check Mr. Roberts' availability as soon as we can, ma'am.
Okay, so in person on the 28th, and then I mean, do you want to do your closing in person, or is it easier to get home and do your closings virtually?
I'd rather not have the extra travel. I'd rather stay locally and be here in person, but that's a preference. It's a good, I'm Leeds, so...
But yeah, I think because I thought it was remote, I've made arrangements, so I'm going to be travelling the opposite direction anyway.
Yeah.
So I suppose we can probably, well, can we keep it as remote for the time being and then review it when we come back?
Yeah, you could do it remotely here. In fact, I may do it remotely here.
That's we don't necessarily have to be at the council's offices. I'm just not exactly sure. It's
takes a while to travel, so yeah,
because I never write closings until all of the evidence has been heard either. So it does put a lot more pressure on that evening. For me, week before last, I finished drafting closings at 4 a.m. So it's it's always a nasty way to do it.
We could do a later start on the 29th. And the reason I mentioned conditions, famous last words, but I have had a look at the conditions already.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of the things I was saying, make sure in there, I think are in there actually, but they just need tweaking. What I'm trying to say is I don't see huge problems with the conditions, that it would be a lengthy discussion. In fact, we may be able to do it in writing if there's anything further. If you're all happy for me to tweak things, I think the main things are in there, and we're picking them up as we go along. So if we continue in that fashion, it should cut down time. So that will just mean closing submissions and obligation, which I think we could do with a late start on the 29th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Virtually, yeah.
There's no significant issue on that, I think, that's likely to think about.
Agreed.
Good. Well, that's really good that everyone's able to work around that. So
Can't wait to see my husband's face when I deliver the news.
you're not travelling on the Monday. That's a shocker. I know some inspectors that are.
It has happened before. In fact, I'm sitting on a Monday, second week of June.
I was supposed to do a Sunday travel because I had no choice, because nobody could agree at the thing in September. You agree to these things, then think, what have I done this for?
I did that 2 weeks. I had an inquiry in the south of England, which went long, and we did the 2 successive Mondays when I was in the middle of a 3-week inquiry, which was not a good idea, but I thought I'm not doing that again.
Just say no.
And 3 weeks on the trot. I mean, I latterly learned in some of our more, older, wiser inspectors say never do 3 weeks on a trot, and I think they've got a point because it is quite hard work. Okay, all right. Well done, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Are we at a place where we can adjourn today?
I think so, yeah. We just need to get you that code, don't we? We've got it.
Okay, yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, pass me the code then.
Indeed. We've got to post it
down, yeah.
Yeah,
I know
post it
everyone's
now.
got to post it.
The only one with post-its in the room.
I'd love to see your desk.
It's just buried under boxes.
And post-its.
Yeah, and post-its, yeah. It gets a bit like, is it the Russell Crowe film Beautiful Mind? There's just stuff everywhere.
Right, okay, lovely. Right, let's adjourn.